Tattoos on the left forearm are a symbol of the Holocaust. But not every Holocaust survivor has one. Why is that? This is because Auschwitz was the only camp in the system to have tattoos. So if someone has a tattoo, they were at Auschwitz at some point, though there are a minority of Auschwitz survivors who do not have tattoos. In my last TikTok, we spoke about how Auschwitz was originally for Polish political prisoners, and Birkenau was built for Soviet POWs. While Jews were in Auschwitz, they weren't deported because they were Jewish until March 1942. Soviet POWs were among the first to receive tattoos in November 1941. They arrived at Auschwitz the month prior, and like all other prisoners before them, they wore their numbers on their uniforms. But because the SS treated them so terribly, and because their clothes were often stolen after death, they were unrecognizable and difficult to identify their corpses. So, they implemented a tattooing system. Originally, the tattooing was done with a stamp that had interchangeable numbers and was put on the prisoners' chests. This was later changed to the forearms with a single needle. In some cases, tattoos were received on the upper arms. Those sent directly to the gas chambers did not receive tattoos. They started tattooing all Jewish prisoners in the spring of 1942, about the time they began arriving. Until the beginning of 1943, Polish non-Jews were seemingly only tattooed if they were in the hospital and very ill, possibly about to die, so they could later be identified. This was changed when a Polish prisoner escaped successfully. With a tattoo on their arm, identifying a former prisoner would be much easier. Who escaped the tattoos entirely? Well, some Jews who were only to be immediately moved to another camp after a quarantine period did not receive tattoos. In 1944, after the Warsaw Uprising, not to be confused with the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, many Polish civilians were sent to Auschwitz and were spared tattoos. Also not tattooed were some Germans sent there for re-education purposes, and those classified as ethnic Germans. The numbers were done in a series, and they can tell researchers a lot about when the person was in Auschwitz. They gave out approximately 400,000 numbers, but no one's number was that high. Instead, they would start it over from one with A or B in front or the letter Z for Roma and Sinti prisoners. These series were done in prisoner categories, such as Jews, Poles, Soviet POWs, and were separated by men and women. Much of this information was retrieved from the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum.